To the cloud. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. You had to listen to her say that, but that's okay. So any other version of seller homework that you wanted to add to the list? Because I've got one that's my favorite. It's also a fantastic assumptive close. And here's what I mean by that. All seller homework, by the way, is an assumptive close, right? Do you see it? You're sending something ahead of time. They haven't even met you yet for all intents and purposes, right? If it's a stranger. And they're sitting, you've asked them to work with you to give you data to help you list and sell their home, right? So you're building the partnership before you've even met some of these folks ahead of time by asking them to participate in that seller homework. They're also focused in on, you know what? She asks really good questions. She cares about what I think. If you are one of a few people that people are seeing, that sellers are seeing, if there's competition and they don't ask those questions, again, you've already set yourself apart because you're the one who asked what they thought. Remember, people want to be heard, right? That human beings want to be heard. So let's give them a reason to feel heard. Let's ask questions where they can respond and feel heard about their own property. So here's the pièce de résistance, since we were talking about French. Seller homework. We used to have a little cardboard cutout of a key that went along with our pre-listing package. And it wasn't a small key, it was a big key. It's like a 18-inch or so by I don't know, 8 or 10-inch cardboard cutout of a key. And on the key it said, please have 2 copies of your front door key ready for me when we meet. Seller homework. Right? They have to make copies of keys, so we can put a copy of a key in a lockbox and keep another one at the office for the just in case. Why is it a brilliant assumptive close? Why does it work so well as seller homework?
Because it assumes you're getting listing and you need those keys for the key box.
You got it. I mean, I can tell you that when I would arrive at someone's home, say, hi, I'm Rick Scott, it's lovely to meet you. And the first thing they would say is, oh, it's lovely to meet you. Oh, look, here we have your keys. Thank you very much. I'm done. Mic drop. Let's sit down and sign paperwork. Right? There was very little else to do because they already followed the instructions. They read through that document and they made me the keys. Why would they make me keys if they weren't going to sit down and hand me the listing, right? I can count on maybe one hand the times where someone actually made the keys and then I didn't take the listing, right? On one hand out of 100 or 200 appointments. So recognize that these things, I give them to you as tools because they work, right? They absolutely work. And it makes the package a little more fun. You've got a cool little key, right? A key's like a house. Oh, yeah. Right? So seller homework is really important. And for me, it was those 3 things. It was them contributing to the improvements list, them contributing to the what do you love about your house, or what sold you on the house, or what do you want to make sure we include in the marketing copy, right? However you want to ask that. And then seller homework of make me 2 copies of the key. What else? What else are you putting in your pre-listing package? Pre-sell you, save time. What do you think?
You'd want to talk about your recent sales and market.
So there are some agents who create a page in that package kind of outlining what they've done in the last 12 months, right? Now, if you're newer to the business or you haven't been that productive recently, you may want to leave that one out if you've been productive, go ahead and talk about recent sales. If you haven't been all that productive in the last 12 months, what you could do is pick your 2 or 3 best sales, and instead of talking about what those sales were, have a conversation with the clients that you worked with and maybe list them as references, right? So have a short little references page. And it could just simply say that, references. Please feel free to call any of the folks below who have had positive experiences with me in the past 6 to 12 months. Now, obviously, you're going to have conversations with people that you list on that page, right? Nobody needs a surprise. But you could use a references page. I had it for a little while and then I took it out. I found that nobody ever called anyway, so I took it out after a while, right? But you could use that. What else? Pre-market you, save time. What else would you send ahead of time?
Well, some of the questions, they were from, I think the regular guide, but just how they would like to communicate, how it's best to communicate.
So stop there a second, Ronnie, because a communication form, that's a great idea, right? We used to have, as part of our pre-listing package, a specific form about communication to say, we know how important communication is. Communication is the root of all partnerships. We want to be certain that we are communicating with you in a way that makes sense. And then we would give them our schedule. And what I mean by that is we had things that we did certain times. It wasn't a free-for-all. We didn't say, hey, tell us how you want us to communicate with you and when, and we'll just work it into our schedule. Again, you can't do that in scale. So we had certain things outlined, like our seller feedback phone calls, so that sellers could get feedback from their showings. Those were scheduled between 3 and 4 on Mondays and Thursdays in my business. And so that was on the communication form so that people would understand that's when we got them feedback for their showings, so that we didn't have to. And if you're curious as to why that's important to have that kind of scheduled and systematized, you can end up literally spending, especially in a fast-moving market, spending more time gathering feedback and delivering it, the feedback to the sellers, onesie-twosie as it comes in. So we just consolidated it all. If you had showings over the weekend, you got to call on Monday afternoon. If you had showings during the week, you got to call on Thursday afternoon, period. Right? I mean, the simple reality is feedback. I mean, it kind of makes me laugh a little bit. The feedback is, did they write an offer? No. Okay, well then the price is too high. Did they write an offer? Yes. Okay, great. Well, then you're well positioned. I'm not sure what other feedback people are really expecting. And while we're on feedback, please remember that all the feedback that you deliver has to be interpreted through the filter of price. Feedback always is interpreted through the filter of price for sellers. And what that means is, if an agent calls you and says they loved the house, however, the bedrooms were a little small for them, you have to add 3 words onto the end of that feedback. They loved the house, however, the bedrooms were too small for them for the price. Because it's always a conversation about price. Because here's why. If you deliver that feedback to a seller, can the seller really do anything about their small bedrooms? No, they're not going to start blowing walls out and making bigger bedrooms, right? But what do they have control over? They have control over the price, right? They have control over where they're positioned. And so, the yard was too small for the price. They didn't want to live on a double yellow line road for the price, right? So you always have to interpret feedback through the filter of pricing and positioning, or else all you're doing is frustrating yourself and frustrating the seller, because you're just giving them details of their house that they already know that they're not willing or able to do anything about. Do you see the difference there? So one is a winner, one is absolutely a loser. So always make sure that you interpret feedback through the filter of price. However, we were on communication form, then I'm going to go to Donna. Communication form, really important. Do you prefer texts, calls, emails, right? Please note, we will speak, my communication form said, we will speak at least once a week unless there's an offer or something additional we need to address. However, we will speak once a week on, Mondays or whatever that day was. And I had people say, please, I don't need a call. Just send me email updates. Guys, I can guarantee you that that's not what they really mean. So even people who say, please don't call me unless there's an offer, you get to go back and say, my communication standards, Mrs. Doyle, say that we are going to speak at least once a week, just as a means of keeping us both in touch and in communication with each other. And if we have additional things to talk about, I'm happy to simply text or email. But once a week on Monday evenings, we will speak just to make sure that we stay in communication. Right? That's a non-negotiable for me. Non-negotiable. I will tell you a quick story. I had a seller one time who on my communication form said, I only want you to email me, and I don't want to hear from you until there's an offer. And so 3 weeks went by, and after like this 2.5 week, I thought, you know what? This does not feel right to me. I feel like I need to call this guy. So I called kind of out of the blue. It was almost 3 weeks from the time I took had the last conversation. And he answered the phone and I said, oh, John, it's Rick Scott. And he said, well, look who decided to finally pick up the phone and call me. And I thought, no, you told me not to call. Wait a minute, hold on. But what I realized was, right, that's a non-negotiable that I had to take a stand for. Yes, he told me not to call, but at that moment in time, when he came back and said, did he come back and say, oh, well, yes, I recognize I told you not to call me until there was an offer? No, what he said was, where have you been? So sellers want communication, even if they don't think they want communication. That's why you have to take it on as a firm standard for yourself. Phone to phone or Zoom to Zoom or face to face, at least once a week, more if needed, more if desired, and it fits into your schedule. And then you can fill in the gaps with digital communication, email or texting. Make sense? So I love that communication form. It outlines some standards. It maybe is some additional form of seller homework where they get to fill in some things that are important to them, right? Donna, what else?
Another thing you can include is a listing agreement, so they get familiar with it.
Yes and no. So I love that. I'm going to tell you that we used to do that and we stopped doing it for a very specific reason, right? And I'm so glad you put that on the table, because it is easy to think I'll just send a lot of these documents up front. And what I found over time is that it hurt me more than it helped me. And it hurt me because there are some portions of our contract that either need explanation or maybe people aren't thrilled with, or they have to ask some additional questions around it. And if I'm sending it ahead of time without me physically or verbally, if it's even on the telephone, there to answer questions, I found that people started to use that as a way to say, you know what, I think we're going to go in a different direction. So I stopped sending those forms. I stopped sending listing contracts. I stopped sending disclosure forms. Any of the forms that actually meant something to the listing, I wanted to be there in person, if that helps. Because trust me when I tell you, it was so much easier to send all that stuff ahead of time so that we could just literally sign the stuff the night I was there. And yet I found there were almost always questions. So being there, because I also like to the other issue is when I arrive, I have pre-filled out forms. Everything is pre-filled out except one line. What's the one line that's not filled out?
The price.
The price. That's exactly right, Barbara. Right? The price is not filled out. Everything else is filled out, including my commission. If I'm sending something ahead of time, I'd need to send blanks. And that then, to me, shows a seller a blank in the commission spot, which now plants a seed that they can kind of fill in the blank with whatever they think is appropriate. Instead, I like to have them all pre-filled out because 50% of people, if it's all filled out, don't have questions around how it's filled out. If it's blank and you're filling in blanks, now they feel like they have some something to add there and some input there. So thank you, Donna, for putting that out there, because it's one of those things that I kind of learned over time to exclude. Here are a couple of other things to exclude since we've stumbled upon that conversation. Exclude comps. Exclude market conditions graphs or things that you are going to have a conversation with them around in person. Remember, the whole idea of the in-person meeting is for you to show them that you are a market expert, to bring market conditions data and conversations and help them interpret it so that they can make the best business decision possible around the pricing and positioning of their property. So you're gonna keep all that stuff out. Here are some other things you absolutely want to include. You want to include some marketing examples, right? If you do flyers for your properties, include a couple of those in there. Maybe you want to do a one-pager. Maybe you want to put in a postcard that you've done for somebody. Maybe you want to do one of the fancy four-fold brochure things. Send them examples of how you market property so that they get an idea. Again, remember, it's supposed to pre-sell you and save time. It saves time by not having to do all that at the consult. When they already check the box in their head, okay, the exposure is clearly high level, right? Because you send something along. People oftentimes ask me, well, if I don't have any listings, how am I supposed to produce these flyers to add to my pre-listing package to go and get listings? It's like a catch-22. So here's my thought. You all live someplace. Produce a brochure on your own house. Nobody has to know for certain that you're not actually selling it. You're just giving an example of what that house would look like marketed in a brochure or on a postcard or whatever else you might be doing. If you don't want to do your own house or you don't have your own house to do it on, I am more than happy to have you come and take pictures of my house. Just let me know and I'll make sure that I vacuum before you come, right? But my point is this. There's no reason not to have these kinds of tools. Just because you don't have a listing doesn't mean that you can't produce something that's not your listing. Or go to one of your colleagues and say, hey, I'm curious. Do you have extras of your last brochure? Do you mind if they have their name and face on them? Frankly, I'm not sure that really even matters. And yet, if you don't want to use somebody else's, maybe ask one of your colleagues, hey, would you mind if I ordered 25 brochures from this listing of yours that you have extras of, and we stripped your name and face away from it? Because they sold that 6 months ago, so who cares? Right? So that you can use somebody else's. What's my point? My point is, don't get in your own way and decide that you can't have that just because you either don't have listings or haven't ever had a listing. You can have all those things. You just have to, like a business owner, think about what tools do I need to go out and attract business to me. And some of those are marketing materials so that you can show potential sellers what you might do were they to hire you. Some other things that I encourage you to include in a pre-listing package. Let me give you one. This is like include / not include. Be careful about like loading this thing up with Keller Williams stuff. Right? There are people who take like so much KW stuff and shove it into the pre-listing package. Guys, no one loves this company more than I do. Maybe Gary does. But after Gary, nobody loves this company more than I do. Well, there's probably a long list, but I love it as much as most of those folks. Here's my point. Your sellers don't really care all that much about the company that you work for. There is some validity to making sure that people know that we are a globally recognized brand. So, saying things like there are 180,000 real estate agents across the United States and Canada, and another 50,000 or 40 something thousand across the planet. Right. So maybe mention that in a cover letter. Maybe mention that, but don't put a map of where all of our market centers are and put in, ad slicks saying Keller Williams is #1 in the planet and all that, because people they just don't care. And it distracts, this is my personal opinion, it distracts people from focusing on what really matters in that packet. And that's you and the value that you bring to the table. Your brand above all else, right? That's the promise of this company. And frankly, it's the promise of this company, not because it's an ad slick or a slogan. It's the promise of this company because that's what sellers are attracted to. Sellers don't hire companies, they hire you, right? And they don't hire you because of a company that you are affiliated with or not affiliated with, right? That's all just in our heads. All that stuff's in our heads. They hire people who prove that they're just the one. And utilizing all these tools and having a powerful pre-listing package gathers you the points that you need to just show people that you are the one. So brief mentions of KW, mentions of having a powerful support system behind you, having again, 200,000 agents around the world, supporting the whole program. Those are things that you can mention here and there, but I wouldn't have page after page after page of all the KW stuff. Less is more, right? More is not more in this scenario. Less is more, and less, as long as it's focused on you and your skills, and most importantly, on what the sellers need and want to hear about how to get their property sold, get the result that they're looking for. That's where you need to focus. Done.
Is there a standard pre-marketing package that we can get a hold of and then kind of use it and then modify it towards ourselves?
Yeah, 100%. And let's see. Give me about 10 more minutes and I'll show you where both of those are, right? There's one of them on the
Designs.
link that I gave you that now has all the Ignite stuff in it. It's called Master Pre-List, right? That's just a PowerPoint that we did that you can use as a foundation. There's also at least 2 of them, or maybe even 3 of them, in the designs section in Command. And I will do my darndest to show you exactly where to find that in the last 5 minutes tonight. So let me get through the delivery of these things, and then we can talk about that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And here's what's good. The good news is that you don't have to love the foundational stuff. Just love the fact that there is foundational stuff so that you can then go and customize it, right? You don't have to start from scratch. Some of you will choose to start from scratch, and that's okay too. But what I would do is I would build a tool based on some of the foundational stuff that we have for you so that you have it quickly. And then over time, customize things, swap pages out as you decide, you want to add this or take away that or whatnot. You'll make it your own over time, but don't fall into the trap of, I'm going to build the best pre-listing package ever on planet Earth and take 6 months to do it, or a year to do it, or never get it actually done because you're building something that's so perfect and so wonderful and so custom that you're now not using the tool, right? So the only other thing I would add to the conversation is perhaps a cover letter. And the cover letter should accomplish a couple of things. It should express gratitude for the opportunity. Always start with that. I pretty much start everything with that, right? Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the attention. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, start with gratitude. You can work in a little bit of an about me into the cover letter. If you must have an about me page, you can certainly add that. I got rid of mine after a while, and I just worked some of the things that I thought were important for them to know about me, right? A love, a passion of real estate, a lifelong resident of wherever, things that I thought made sense to talk to about a seller. I just worked them into my cover letter. So I was able to take another page out, because the about me page was like, a picture of my face, and here's all the stuff about me. I know it seemed a little indulgent, and frankly, I didn't think people really cared much about it. The important things I just pulled into the cover letter. So thank you for the opportunity. Here's what I look forward to. I look forward to bringing these skills and this level of expertise to the table to get you the results that you're looking for. Please note, my motto is your results above mine and anyone else's at all times. I look forward to our time together. Have a lovely day. Bye. Short and sweet. A couple of little paragraphs, right? Nothing long, because people don't read. Bullet points where possible, because people don't read. So watch how you structure what you're talking about. So now we've kind of described what that pre-listing package looks like, right? Can you close your eyes and kind of get a picture of what that looks like for you? Now, a couple of things. That's the documents portion of it. I want you to think about what the wow factor might be, right? And what do I mean by that? I'll tell you what we used to do. Our pre-listing packages were the documents. After a while, we actually turned all those documents into a bound book, and we had 5 or 6 of those books kind of published. What I mean by published is like at Shutterfly, right? We made a bound, almost like a photo book with the materials, and we would just circulate those bound books around as pre-listing opportunities, right? It used to come in a little basket or in a little bag with, some M&Ms, and at one point we decided to write a book, which means we paid for licensing of a pre-written book about how to get your home sold, that we got to stick our name and face on the front of, right? It was a licensed material. We didn't actually write the book, but we would stick one of those in there. We had some doodads that we would put in there, like pens and notepads, and so some little like merch, right? I think that's what the kids are calling it nowadays, right? Merch. So you put some stuff in, and for a while we were doing other kind of fun things, like we would have the pre-listing package arrive in a box, and the box had caution tape, yellow caution tape over the top of it. That was custom made, that said, caution, the contents of this box may cause your home to sell. And so they got to kind of cut that and open it up, and then our stuff was there. We used to do, for a while, we used to do the same kind of box, but we had, when you opened the box, there was a piece of paper, a strip of paper that said, does it feel like finding the right real estate professional is like finding a needle in a haystack? And that piece of paper sat on top of a whole bunch of hay, and our stuff was at the bottom, so that when they got to the bottom, they had just looked through the proverbial haystack and found us, and here, we're the needle type thing. So there are ways to make your pre-listing package kind of stand out and pop. You can, when we used to ask permission to have them delivered to people's place of employment, and they used to come in a basket with some flowers and a balloon and stuff kind of coming out of it. Because when things arrive at the office, everybody who walks past the front desk is like, oh man, those are pretty. Who are those for? And so we wanted that same opportunity to have our pre-listing package sit at the front desk and have people walk past and say, who are those for? Oh, it's for Maria. And so that all day they'd ask Maria, where'd you get those balloons? What was that big basket? And like, oh, it's from my realtor, right? But did you hear the important words that were just said? Oh, it's from my realtor. So you're planting the seeds that they're already hiring you before they've even met you with those kinds of wow factor type opportunities. Now, You don't have to go with the wow factor. You can go with just the packages that we talked about. But I gave you some examples of adding to it because every bit of wow just kind of gives you some more points. And what I've always looked at is becoming the one for people to say yes to on the list side is just about the person who gets the most points. So if you're doing all these small things all along the way, gathering all the extra points, by the time you're in person, you're so far ahead in points that even if you blow the appointment, you sometimes get the listing because you're just that much further ahead in gathering up all those points. Now, there was a question earlier about delivery. So let's talk about that. It is my opinion, which is based on experience, because this is, I've been giving you some of my best practices from my time in the field. My opinion is that when you set an appointment with a seller, your pre-listing package should arrive within 1/2 of a business day. So what do I mean by that? I mean that if you set an appointment at 11 o'clock in the morning, your pre-listing package should arrive before dinner. Now, if you've set an appointment earlier in the day for later that night, well, then you've got a shortened time period, right, to get this over there. It should arrive before you. How do you get it there? I'll tell you what I did. I encourage one of two things. Either pay someone, which is not what I did, or barter. So what do I mean by barter? I mean that Alex has pre-listing packages that have to be delivered and I have packages that have to be delivered. So Alex and I have a deal that I'll deliver hers and she'll deliver mine, right? Just make sure that you're working out a barter system with someone who does about the same amount of list side business as you, right? You don't want it to be too lopsided, and choose someone who is willing to do it the way you want it to be done. So when Alex and I have that agreement, I get to say to Alex, how do you want me to show up when I'm delivering these packages? Because sometimes people are home, right? And so I want to be certain that I know how Alex wants me to handle certain scenarios. Alex may say to me, well, you know what? So if someone is home, if they start asking questions, because that happens sometimes, right? You say, hi, you know, this is who I am. I'm delivering it from Alex, and you know, have a nice day. And they simply say, well, before you go, you know, do you guys have an idea about what my house is worth? What's the commission that you guys charge? Right? They start asking questions. And so I need to know how Alex wants that handled. Right? Alex may say to me, look, if they start asking questions, just simply say to them, you know, those are great questions. Let me convey them back to Alex and she will give you a call. Right? Why do I bring that up? Because I didn't do that the first time I did this. And I chose somebody who showed up at somebody's house and stood on the front porch and had a 30-minute conversation about things that I would have never said to this seller. Right? Now, that wasn't the person's fault. That was my fault because it's my business. And I should have said, hey, if you get somebody live, here's how I want you to handle that. So I bartered in the beginning, and then I moved from that to having one of my family members take over that role. And in order to stand out, what I did is I created my own delivery company. And so what that means is I had labels made. My company was called Express Delivery. And I had labels made as if Express Delivery was its own version of you know, FedEx or whatnot. And I would crack and peel those labels and stick them on the thing I was delivering, whether it was a package or a box. I would write in the address. I had a hat made that said Express Delivery. And so the family members that worked for Express Delivery would go and deliver these packages. And the process, the system was, they would call 5 minutes from the house. If they got someone home, the script was, hi, this is Bob from Express Delivery. I have a package for you. from Rick Scott at Century 21 Landmark Properties. Just curious if you will be home. I'm about 5 minutes away from your home. And then he would get there and hand we had a, this is 15 to 20 years ago. So it would be an electronic, a digital, an iPad type style thing now, or something on a phone now. But back then we had just a clipboard, and I had express delivery signature sheets. And so they would have to sign like any other delivery for the delivery. And so it was all official, and it made it seem like I had hired some company to personally deliver this package, because that's how important this information and getting it to them quickly was to me. It sent a message that these people mattered. It sent a message that I was systematized. It sent a message that I did this all the time. It sent a message that I was successful because I could pay for express delivery to have these things delivered. It sent all the messages that I was looking to send ahead of time before they even opened the pre-listing package. You see the power of that? By the way, if they weren't home, the script was, hey, this is Bob from Express Delivery. I have a package being delivered from Rick Scott at Century 21 Landmark Properties. Please note, I will leave it by, if you're not at home, I will leave it by the garage door. Please be sure to pick it up when you, or at the front door, whatever, right? He would just tell them where to go to get it. Because we made that mistake once too. He left it at the front door for people who only ever go in and out of the garage. And there's candy in it, because my packages always had M&Ms, because people like M&Ms. And the raccoons came and like picked it apart and ate the candy and ripped all my stuff to shreds. So I learned my lesson on that one. I wasn't kidding a couple of weeks ago when I said I've done everything wrong, which leads me to doing things better, but I've done it all wrong. I've made all the mistakes and had all the animals on the planet come and eat my stuff. Does that help in terms of delivery? Using each other, using a family member, I tell you these stories because I want you to continue to think bigger and bigger and bigger, right? It's not about pushing. The easier version of this is PDF it all and just email it to them, right? That's the easier version. However, think about the difference what I just described makes. There's no real wow factor except for the fact that you have this document prepared in receiving it via PDF. Now, that doesn't mean once the package is delivered, you can't also send a backup PDF if you so choose, because maybe somebody will review it better if it's on the computer, or faster if it's on the computer. You can make those choices yourself. But I want to make sure you're hearing some of the wow factor in delivering this kind of package. Having it already sets you apart. The way you deliver it can set you apart even more. I said earlier, within a half a business day. And so if your appointment is set at 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the half business day says get it to them before 12 noon the next day. The reason a half a business day is so important is that what the seller experiences, even though it's not exactly this, within a half business day, the seller sort of experiences, okay, Alex, thanks, I appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you. Hangs up the phone and like, ding dong, someone arrives. It feels kind of instantaneous to them, even though it really isn't instantaneous, right? That's why keeping it tight to that half business day. Any questions on this conversation around the pre-listing package? I do want to make sure I give you an opportunity to see where it lives. Any questions? No questions, huh? My goodness. I must be brilliant at describing this. All right, let me give you, why can't I sign in? Let me give you a quick tour. So let me share my screen. So the first one, where is it? hold on, I'm still here. I just am struggling with finding what I need to show you. Okay, here we go. So the link that I gave you the other day, which now sends you to this Google Drive where all the power sessions are placed, as well as all of the other materials, right? And here I can give you the link all over again. I'll copy and paste it into the chat in case you didn't get it the other night. There it is, right? So there's the link to that. Whoops. Oh, what did I just do? And so in this, you can see here, master pre-list PowerPoint. See that right there? I'm not going to open it because it'll screw up my screen share, but it's just a PowerPoint. Again, it's not brilliant, but it's a foundation. And it gives you the kind of the through line of what we talked about: cover letter, testimonials, process, right? It gives you an idea of how to build one of these suckers. And if you're interested in building it off of what that looks like, if you kind of like the design, you can always then completely customize and change it all, because it's just a PowerPoint. The other place, let me stop my screen share and bring you there. The other place to look is in Command. Now, nobody laugh at me because it sometimes takes me a little while to find this. So you're not allowed to laugh. Okay, it's in
Click on the
Designs.
top KW and I'll show you. Oh, yeah.
In Designs, and so you go to Designs, and then once you're in Designs, you do Create a Design, and then you click the print, right? So it lives in this print library. So you go to Designs, and then in the upper right, you click Create a Design, and you click Print, and that should take you, Print and then Continue, excuse me. That should take you, hoping this is not going to make a liar out of me. Alex is giving me the nod, so I think I'm in a good place. So then you get over here, you see listings right on the left. And so if you click on listings, you get listing presentation, right? And so the listing presentations, when you click on that, pop up. Now, nothing here will say pre-listing package. It's just the listing presentation template that you can turn into a pre-listing package, right? Or you can use it for your main listing presentation, or both. We're going to talk next week, next Tuesday night, when we finish our sellers, when we go through the scripts, about what your listing presentation can look like. Because you may be surprised that there's as much as I love the pre-listing package idea, from a listing presentation perspective, I'm going to strip that way down, because I like a real stripped down version of that. So you can go and check out any of these. There's 4 different ones to use. I'll just open this one. So we'll say use. Now I can tell you that all of these are way too long, right? They're all too big. They're all too long. They all have way too much information. So your goal in going through these is, what will I keep and what will I strip away, right? You'll strip away more than you'll keep. So again, you just can kind of go through, wow, doing this with all of your faces and the chat and everything is a little bit challenging for me. However, I think if you click on pages, now you can start going through, right? What does it look like? So you have a cover page, you have a home page, or an intro letter. If you want to do something like this with photos, right? So you can, and this is 30 pages long. So you can go through and kind of check out all the opportunities that exist for you, right? There's some process pages already built, if in fact you want to use them, and it's all customizable, right? If we don't do this one, well, you can just get rid of that. right? If you need some additional training on how to use designs, we are going to have Joe McHugh start doing weekly sessions on different pieces of Command. That'll start up again next week after the business planning clinic is finished this week. So do watch for those opportunities. But that's another place that you can find that information. Does that help? I think that was Donna who asked that question. Does that help? Awesome. So you've got 5 different versions that you can choose from as foundations, and mix and match and kind of customize as you go. All right, Silva and then John, and then we are done because we're already 6:05 and I have to get my haircut in 10 minutes.
I just wanted to mention that Jen Henry had uploaded on the public drive pre-listing presentation, which is really cute, and I have used it, and it's very easy to customize. Excellent.
So there's a 6th one on the public drive. Now you do have to be in the market, in one of our market centers to access the public drive. So if you're not, you know what I'll do? I'll find that on that public drive and I'll upload it to our Ignite Google Drive, right? So you can have it right there. I'll have that done for you within 24 hours. So give me till tomorrow and we'll get that up there for you. John Mendez, go ahead.
So for when we give our buyer accounts, or not our packages, whatever, can we print it out in color at the office? I'm like referring specifically to the Stanford office because that's where I'm located at. But like, can I print it in color?
You can, yes, indeed. Yeah, just make sure that you're all connected and whatnot, and you know, Adonis or Sam will hook you up and make sure that you're able to print properly. Absolutely. All right, guys. So that's what I have for you tonight. Please, 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 please avail yourself of 2 things tomorrow. 1, lunch. We'd love to see you. It's lovely seeing you on a little box, but you're far more lovely to see in person. So do come into one of our locations tomorrow, either in Ridgefield or in Stamford, to join us for lunch at 12 o'clock, and then stick around for business planning clinic from 1 until 5. Remember, it's both days. It's not one or the other. It's both days, 1 until 5. If for some reason you won't join us in our locations where we're having lunch tomorrow, do make sure that you tune in on either this Zoom room or the KW Connect homepage from 1 to 5 from wherever you are. But don't miss business planning clinic. It'll be an awesome experience. Gene is awesome. If you don't know Gene Rivers, you will love him as much as I do by the time the first 20 minutes is up. So that's the story. Have a lovely, lovely evening. I'm going to get my haircut.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.